U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has been struggling with years of understaffing. Now, of course, it has a monumental immigration case backlog, but USCIS appears to be turning a corner for its workforce. Employee engagement is improving, and the agency was one of the better scoring Homeland Security subcomponents in this year's Best Places to Work rankings. Federal News Network's Drew Friedman got more from USCIS Director Jaddou.
We have created a cadence of quarterly town halls, specifically because we've learned it's an opportunity to listen, and people want to know that they're being heard. And the way we have over now 3 years, my time being here, we iterated through what is the best approach for a town hall? What does our workforce want? And, we've experimented with multiple approaches. And what we learned is people want to ask questions. They want to feel heard, and then they want us to answer some of their thoughts. And sometimes their ideas are wonderful, and we adopt them. And then there are other times when they're not, but that's okay when you're given the opportunity to explain why that might not work for the agency, but also give the opportunity to the workforce to explain why their idea is a good one. So we have learned over time, and now it seems like we've settled on a good, an approach that people are happy with is to start with a short opening, a little bit of the state of USCIS, just to give some updates of just generally where we've been for the quarter so that people have a bigger picture understanding of possibly things they're not necessarily focused on in their day-to-day work. And then move right into questions and answers directly from the workforce. And what we do, it's just such a great opportunity. And I think we can only do it now, given our technology. We allow people to submit questions months in advance. And then they get to vote on it all the way through the town hall. And so it's a little bit like crowdsourcing. What questions do people want to hear? And the highest ranked questions are the ones that are chosen, and then we answer them there. So we'll read the question out, and then we take turns of people that are in wherever we are located. It could be we alternate also, some at headquarters. The next one will be in the field, and we'll go out to some office across the country to conduct the town hall there in person. So from in-person to virtual. And we have found that people have really participated and wanted to be a part of this. At least half of the agency, we've had about 10,000 people, many of these different town halls. It's about half our workforce has shown up to these town halls, either in person or virtually. So really just a great opportunity. We have found that has held steady. Generally, people want to come to these town halls.
And what are some of the types of questions that you have gotten from employees recently? And can you give a couple examples maybe where you've incorporated suggestions or feedback from employees into how USCIS runs?
Yeah, it runs the gamut, frankly. Some are bigger picture, larger questions about ensuring that people have flexibilities at work. Wellness questions. What does wellness mean in the workplace? Pressures on the work they're doing every day. So wondering about the metrics that they have, measuring their production. But it also can be really specific. And let me give you an example recently where somebody asked if they could ensure, just for the protection of themselves, and this happens with various of our forms, we would include the officer name in some responses that would go back to the individual requesting something from us. Because as you know, people request immigration benefits from us, and then we respond with a decision. And clearly, there were some concerns about privacy there for our workforce, and obviously concerns about security, safety, that sort of thing, just in case people don't want their name out there, potentially on a negative decision. It makes them nervous. And so they asked us, can you please remove that? And we did. So we also have the monthly celebrations for different holidays or different month recognitions. So Hispanic Heritage Month, as you know, we just finished Pride Month. There was a request for another special emphasis month with regard to Jewish American Heritage Month, another one with regard to Arab American Heritage Month. Again, those things have come through. It's not just the town hall. We have a ton of ways for people to register their questions, their ideas, their comments, their concerns. And when we hear them, we take them seriously. We do hear them. And my goal is to ensure that if it's a good idea, well, then great, let's adopt it. If we think it's not a good idea, let's investigate if we can. And if it doesn't make sense for the agency as a whole, then we need to get back to the individual and explain why. And I have found that when you do that, it really kind of takes the temperature out of the room. You know, person's not exactly happy. Obviously, they wanted their idea, but sometimes they are because they understand the reason and may actually have seen or learned something, a perspective they don't necessarily know about.
I want to ask you a little bit more specifically as well about the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, which is, of course, another really important way to gather feedback, as well as the best places to work rankings that came out just a couple weeks ago. At the top line, USCIS had a 4.3 point increase in its engagement and satisfaction score in best places to work. But, just looking back at some of the workforce trends over time, it looks like for the last couple of years, there was a bit of a dip there in engagement and satisfaction. So can you walk me through, what are some of the workforce challenges that USCIS has historically had, and how are you, now trying to turn things around?
First of all, feeling heard is one thing, right? So I talked a little bit about the town hall. The FEVs is another way, but we don't stop there. I mentioned that we have multiple other ways. We have something that we started called Conversations with the Director, but it's also conversations with the Deputy Director and conversations with our Chief of Staff, and it's also conversations with your individual component of USCIS leadership. People, so all across the agency, we're having it in person or virtually or both, in which we're making these smaller conversations where you can actually have a very easygoing discussion. And in the ones that I've done, I have found them to run the gamut and have really enjoyed getting to know our workforce. And then our workforce getting to know who I am and what I'm doing. And the same goes for all the other people who are also hosting these conversations. And we have used the FEV surveys in some of these by saying, okay, which office has a high FEV score? So then we go there and we will have, and we'll make them small. Again, keep them 10, 15 people so that we can have a really fruitful, there's no raising hands necessarily, just pipe in, have a discussion. And, we'll go and we'll ask, well, what are you doing right? That we can maybe share with some of our other offices across the rest of the agency. And then the same goes with, okay, what are some of our lower ranking FEV scores offices? What's going on there exactly? And I have found that sometimes it is structural things, or office, it could be an older office building that's creating tons of problems. It could also be management. It could be certain positions haven't been filled for a while, and people need support. And so we have, and when I get to see those things, of course, the first thing I do is reach very directly out to their leadership, to the head of whatever component of USCIS is. Out of those meetings, we take very good notes, and we have people in my office who very directly reach out to say, hey, we heard this. What are you going to do about this? Or not. I mean, it could be something that they do know about and is not going to be addressed. And if so, we like to, again, get back to people. And that goes not just here. Like I said, we're trying to do that in multiple ways. But that's just one other thing. We also have a mailbox. It's a Ask the Director mailbox.